Welcome to the Nourish Together office. We're not in the kitchen today, but we are here to talk about eating probiotics. What does that mean? Why we need them? And what are the top 5 ways to get more of them in our diets? Gigo is not going to be joining us today. We will miss him dearly. He's actually taking a little time off for a couple of these Wellness Wednesdays. So I'll actually be interviewing some amazing people in this beautiful wellness industry for the next couple of lives. So stick with me, come back every Wednesday because it will be so much fun. So today, 5 ways to eat probiotic rich foods and also just ways to increase probiotics in our gut. So what are probiotics? These are beneficial microorganisms that help us do everything from having good mood to digesting food to enhancing our immune system. And literally we would have no immunity if it wasn't for these trillions of life forms that live inside of us, all over our digestive tract, in our mouths, on our skin, in our genitals, in our lungs. And they're always communicating with our brain. They're communicating with our lungs. This amazing, highly evolved bacteria is usually reading the environment so that before we even know that, maybe something is off somewhere, or we might pick up sort of danger signs in a place, or maybe really love someone or not like someone after just being near them for a little bit, that could all be a product of our gut bacteria reading the environment and sending us cues, sending our brain cues to let us know, is this a safe situation? Is this not? That's pretty amazing, right? On top of that, they release a lot of neurotransmitters. So all of those feel-good chemicals that we need to actually have a really highly functioning brain and to actually have good mood and enjoy our lives. And they help us digest food, and they make many vitamins for us, including B vitamins that we need so many of. And what else? They reduce inflammation. They maintain our mucus production, the healthy mucus we need to have everything nice and hydrated and protected. And they really do. They protect us from pathogens as well. So when we have really good gut microbiome, and we can, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you were with a group of people and you all ate the same thing, and some people got food poisoning, some people didn't? Well, that's because all of our microbiomes vary a lot. And if somebody's dealing with some form of dysbiosis, so when things are not in balance and we end up having more of the harmful microorganisms, then when we do encounter pathogens, say through food and food poisoning, if we're already dealing with dysbiosis, then that pathogen can come in and really wreak havoc. Whereas somebody who has a really strong foundation, a really healthy microbiome, might be able to fight that pathogen and kind of neutralize it before it creates any problems. So those are some of the reasons why we need them so much. And so how do we add them to our diet? So number one, we can eat probiotic-rich foods. So those are the best ones, I believe, are fermented veggies. Now, there are some people that maybe if they're having a histamine condition, that they might not do so well with fermented vegetables and foods that sit for a long time, canned foods and things like that. So that would definitely be an exception. But for the most part, people can tolerate fermented vegetables really well, and they've been used in every culture, especially traditional cultures. So things like sauerkraut, which is mostly fermented cabbage, though it can be made with many different vegetables, and sometimes added to. You can find like a ruby sauerkraut that's made with beets, carrots. It's delicious, and it's easy to make at home too, but it does take some time and it takes attention. And so I've been finding that lately I haven't been making my own. I've been buying, there's a Hosta Hill, which is an amazing brand of sauerkraut here locally in the eastern coast, where or east coast, I should say, and it's really delicious. There's so many brands everywhere. Like, it's something that's so popular today for good reason. So just make sure you find some that are coming in glass jars. Avoid plastic as much as you want, especially in things that are going to sit and age and have some acidity. You don't want that plastic going into your food. So find a good brand that's in a glass jar, or make your own. There are tons of recipes. You can find a recipe in my blog, and it's fun to make. And it's actually a really fun project to make with kids, because you have to really kind of macerate that the cabbage to release all its juices. So it can be a really fun thing to do together. There's also kimchi, which tends to be a little bit more on the spicier side. So some kids don't do as well with kimchi, but if your kid likes spicy flavors, then by all means, try kimchi. And ways to add them to food are inside omelets, inside sandwiches, inside quesadillas. I mean, if they don't like eating it just by itself, you can sprinkle it in many of the things that they do like. Even you can put it inside, if you are making something like a mac and cheese or any kind of pasta. Once the pasta is cooked and you've added your sauce, you can actually put in a couple of tablespoons of sauerkraut and mix it in. And it just adds kind of a tangy flavor. It's delicious. And you're boosting your own and your child's microbiome. The number 2, you can drink probiotic beverages. So there are many types of kombucha available today. So that's a fermented tea. There's also water kefir. There is kvass, which is usually the juice from beets. And those are all amazing, and they'll provide that same amount of probiotics. And it'll be, really easy to digest. It's coming in a liquid form. Just make sure it's not something that has a high content of sugar. And for kombucha, if you're giving it to your kids, make sure you get one that has no alcohol. So Aquavit Tea is a brand I know here that they actually test and they remove the alcohol content that forms naturally from the fermentation. So I think, kombucha can be a wonderful way to get your kids to start having a little bit more probiotics. The third one is using raw apple cider vinegar. So raw apple cider vinegar, you might also see some that come with the mother. And what that means is that the SCOBY, the bacteria that's in there to ferment the vinegar, comes in the bottle. It's not filtered out. So use some of that. You can use it in salad dressings. You can just add it to water. Apple cider vinegar mixed in water can actually be very helpful for digestion overall. So having a little bit of that with meals. You can also use raw apple cider vinegar to ferment grains. So you can ferment things like oatmeal overnight on your counter, not in the fridge. And that fermentation process will take hold with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So the food is actually going to be that, say oatmeal or however you're preparing your oats will be more digestible and absorbable in the morning. And you can even do things like making batter for pancakes and adding that apple cider vinegar, fermenting it overnight, and then in the morning you cook it. Will also be more highly digestible because it has already been pre-digested by the bacteria. And then you can add other fermented foods such as miso, which you can make sauces with. Just don't cook your miso so that you don't lose that probiotic property. Tempeh, which is a fermented soy product. So it's a little bit sort of tougher than tofu, but can be really delicious. Tempeh Reuben can be an amazing sandwich where, if you're using really good quality bread or maybe a gluten-free bread, but you can have not only the tempeh, but also some sauerkraut. That's usually part of a Reuben. And then things like kefir and yogurt. Now, a lot of the commercial yogurts don't actually have their probiotics are not as available as if you maybe had made it at home, but it's still worthwhile absolutely to try some. And if you're dairy free, there are lots of brands of coconut yogurt nowadays that can be really delicious. I think, especially with coconut yogurt and also cashew yogurt, which I haven't found one I really love. I tried forage and I've tried some other ones, and I haven't yet found one that I actually enjoy eating. So why bother, right? But there are certain brands of coconut yogurt I really like. Last week I shared, or 2 weeks ago, Wellness Wednesday, I shared one brand of coconut yogurt. So check it out if you're curious. And so those, you can add to various meals. The tempeh can be a little hard. So like I said, maybe marinating it and baking it can be really delicious. Or if you cut it really finely to use inside of a sandwich, that can be a good way to go. And then number 5 is eating prebiotic foods. So these are the foods that feed healthy bacteria in our gut so that they can reproduce, proliferate, which is what we want. We want the healthy ones to really take colony in our gut and beyond. So what are some of those prebiotic foods? Onions, garlic, and leeks. So those in the allium family are amazing. They tend to feed those healthy microorganisms. And then bananas and apples, especially the skin, the pectin in the skin can be very helpful for specific types of bacteria that actually protect us against diabetes. So isn't that amazing? More apples. Like we needed another reason to love apples, but here's one. And also sweet potatoes, asparagus, sunchokes, and Jerusalem artichokes. So those all have amazing fiber and other content in them that then feed our microorganisms, our microbiome, and they in turn make things like butyrate and vitamins and all sorts of wonderful nutrients that we need every day. Now, here's a bonus thing. There are another couple of ways where you can get more probiotics without necessarily being through food. One, of course, is through supplements. So I won't talk much about that today because I will do a session just on supplements. But of course, you could get a really good quality probiotic supplement. There's a few that I like, so we'll talk about that. By the way, you like these talks and there's something you really want to learn about, leave me a comment, post questions, because I'll be addressing this throughout the year. But what I wanted to go back to are those 2 ways you can get those probiotics without being through food. So one of them is gardening, using your hands in the soil. All the amazing microorganisms in the soil will get into us through our skin, through breathing, maybe sometimes through eating, because we might, I don't know, pick a fresh strawberry or something off the ground. But have your kids help you garden. It's really amazing for them. They can develop a better relationship with food and with fresh food and with the earth. And then they also get these microorganisms. And it's amazing. There have been some studies that show people who do garden and who have their hands in the soil tend to have improved mood. And part of that is related to these microorganisms that are getting into us through skin and through breathing it in. So being in soil and also being in parks. So national parks and parks that are more wild. So more than city parks that tend to get sprayed and have high traffic of dogs and things like that. Those not so much, but parks that are a little bit more wild tend to have a lot of beneficial bacteria that tends to be untouched. That's been, evolving over thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of years. So spending time in those parks and, being near the ground, of course, in certain areas, you still need to watch out for ticks and all the other things about being in parks, but it's still so important to be in nature and to have that access. And then the second one is deep breathing. Deep breathing can really engage our vagus nerve, which is this nerve that goes all the way from the cerebellum, it wraps around the heart and the lungs, and then it goes all the way down to our intestines, and the roots of this nerve are all over our digestive tract, especially our intestines. And 90% of fibers in this nerve are bringing information from the gut up to the brain. So a lot of that signaling that's happening is actually coming from our microbiome. And when we activate the vagus nerve through deep breathing, there are massages, there are many different things we can do to activate it, but deep breathing being one of them, and breathing into the bottom of our bellies and really focusing on slowing down our breath, maybe even using something like boxed breathing, where we breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold empty for a count of 4, and then repeat that slowly. And bringing the air down into the belly, into the intestines, can be super helpful for activating the vagus nerve, activating our microbiome, and basically sending a message that there is no problem. And when they are happy and when they think that there is no problem, they let the rest of the body know too. And they can proliferate better, and they can continue to then give us those nutrients that I talked about that we need so much, the butyrate and the vitamins and the neurotransmitters. So I've today covered the 5 ways you can get probiotic foods and 2 bonus ways to get more probiotics in your body, in your life, and with your kids. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give me a thumbs up. You can like this, you can post comments, you can share it with anybody you think could benefit from this information. And I'll see you next week when I'll have a guest in the show, Caroline Griswold, who is a respectful parenting coach. And we'll be talking about mealtime communication with our kids. So see you soon.